Hi, I am Jairam Reddy, former Professor of Physics and Vice Chancellor, Sri Venkateswara University. Today's topic is on progress at COP26 so far. The Climate Summit at Glasgow, COP26, started as a crucial meet because the IPCC has warned that the planet Earth was on the way to witness more irreversible impacts unless substantial action takes place now. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, on the very first day, surprised the world by pronouncing India's climate commitments more than the world was expecting. He declared that India would achieve net zero emissions by 2070, also would increase its installed renewable capacity to 500 gigawatts, install 50% of its electricity capacity through non-fossil fuel resources, reduce carbon emissions by 1 billion tons, and lessen the carbon emissions intensity of the economy by 45%. Virtually, this means phasing out coal that is used to generate 70% of the country's electricity, transitioning to clean energies, decarbonizing industries like cement and steel, switching over to electrical vehicles, more forestation to suck more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, installing more solar farms, all in the next few decades. This will change everything for India, for the world, for the investors and the technology developers, and for climate negotiations, wrote Arunabha Ghosh, CEO of the Council on Energy, Environment and Water. Well-known British economist Nicholas Stern, chairman of the Grantham Research Institute on Climate Change and the Environment at London School of Economics, said this was a very significant moment for the summit. It is a chance for India to show that it can deliver on both economic development and climate change. Several other large economies have also announced pledges to reach net zero emissions. China, the world's largest carbon emitter, accounts for 11% of all emissions, aims to have carbon dioxide emissions peak before 2030 and achieve net zero emissions by 2060, 10 years ahead of us. And the US President Biden, appealed for extraordinary global cooperation in achieving these targets. Some critics even said the US should have pledged net zero emissions much earlier to 2050 to make up for its historical emissions causing the present global warming. It is in this context that India's commitments are being much admired, though the country still has an obligation for widespread poverty mitigation. The International Energy Agency, IEA, has done an analysis based on these new pledges, and the analysis shows that if they are met in full and on time, they would be enough to hold the rise in global temperature to 1.8 degrees centigrade by the end of the century. That means below 2 degrees target. Two more analyses were released. The first by Australia-based environmental analysis group called Climate Research. They released their analysis on November 3rd. And the second one was published in the journal Science on November 4. And both the analyses were done based on the commitments made by India and the new NDCs confirmed by China. These two are among the three biggest emitters. There is a 50% chance, according to the first analysis by the Climate Resource, and 34% chance, according to the report in the Science magazine, that warning could be kept under 2 degrees centigrade if the commitments are met on time and in full. India's climate commitments came with another stern message on climate finance. The Prime Minister said India expects developed countries to make $1 trillion available as climate finance as soon as possible. Today, as we track the progress on climate mitigation, the same way we must track climate finance. Justice will truly be served if we put pressure on those countries that have not lived up to their climate finance commitments. The developed countries, in fact, have failed to deliver $100 billion from 2020 as promised in Paris Agreement in 2015 in order to mitigate and adapt to climate change. A report by the UN Standing Committee on Finance said that developing countries would actually need trillions of dollars to achieve just a fraction of their climate change targets made in the year 2015. Now, the developed countries not only had not started paying from 2020, but pushed the deadline by 3 more years, that is to 2023. That means for the next 3 years also, the developing and poor countries are not likely to get any climate finance. Harjit Singh, senior advisor at the Climate Action Network International and a veteran of these climate meetings, said the progress on COP26 negotiations tells a very different story. Outside, there is a talk about trillions of dollars being mobilized for climate action, but inside the negotiations, there is a huge resistance to even clearly define what climate finance means. A vague definition of climate finance will allow the rich nations to fudge the numbers and to evade responsibility. There are others too worried at the lack of meaningful progress in the negotiations. Teresa Anderson, climate policy advisor at ActionAid International, said there is a danger that this is becoming a negotiation-free climate negotiations. A negotiation-free climate negotiation. In this week, the focus must come back to the negotiations, building trust and the cooperation needed to limit warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade and deliver on finance to protect frontline communities. The COP26 President Alok Sharma, a Britain's cabinet member, admitted that most of the contentious issues remained unresolved in the negotiations, and that these would now be referred to the ministerial meetings beginning Monday 8th, that is yesterday. This includes the discussions on finance also. I hope we will be able to make progress on these next week. Overall, India's net zero target is a call for economic transformation. The analysis by the Council of Energy, Environment and Water shows how a 2070 net zero scenario will change the outlook for many key sectors in the country. One, with hydrogen but without carbon capture and storage, the industrial energy will change significantly by 2070. How? Electricity from non-conventional sources provides less than 20% of industrial energy currently, but its share would have to jump to 65% by 2070. Next, presently hydrogen share is very small, but would have to grow to 19% of industrial energy by 2070. Next, the electric vehicles sold in 2070 would have to be 84% of all cars. 85% of all cars sold will be electrical in the year 2070, and 79% of all trucks will be electrical sold in the 2070. Next, the coal-based power would have to be eliminated fully. These are the transformations would have to happen. But this transformation do not come easily. It comes with a high price tag. It is worked out that the economic cost for net zero transition will amount to between $9,400 billion to $14,000 billion in 2015 prices between 2030 to the end of the century 2100. The total budget up to the end of the century. The cost variations 9,400 to 14,000 depend on whether hydrogen and the carbon capture storage have a big role or a small role in the India's energy transition. The 2070 net zero target is also a challenge provided for innovators. Also an opportunity to develop next generation smart appliances, energy storage and grid storage, solar photovoltaic panels, wind turbines, energy efficient industrial boilers, electrolyzers for the green hydrogen production, or batteries for electrical vehicles. These are all the type of products that the country have to produce. Largely at COP26, India displayed institutional leadership. I would say our Prime Minister Modi ji displayed institutional leadership by launching 2 more initiatives and backing 2 more pledges. It's not only the commitments he made only to cut down the carbon emissions, but there are extra pledges that the country has backed. That's how he has displayed international institutional leadership. 1, India launched the infrastructure for resilient island states, an initiative under the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, that is CDRI, to support vulnerable island countries. You know, there are many small island developing states, SIDS, mostly in the southern Pacific. They are at the mercy of the climate change. It also therefore they require necessary infrastructure, not only to face the disasters of climate change, but to take up their sustainability development plans. The second initiative is the Green Grids Initiative. That is, one sun, one world, one grid. One sun, one world, one grid. This initiative has been initiated by India in partnership with United Kingdom. This is to interconnect grids across countries and to tap into renewable energy sources everywhere. This is a very great exercise. So far, 80 countries resolved to join the initiative and put forth their efforts. The second thing is, India was among the backers of two important plans. One is deforestation. The second is reduction of methane emissions. The two are really necessary actions to be undertaken. But India has not signed. It has backed up the two pledges, but it has not signed for its own reasons. The reasons are, it has signed the pledge on deforestation commitments because its framework has trade linkages which won't be in the country's interest, according to the India's environmental secretary. Similarly, India views the methane emission reductions plan will impact its farm sector or agricultural sector, as the methane gas also comes from paddy cultivation and livestock. These two are very important to our economy of the country. Though such conditions and alliances have no legal sanctity, India's negotiators said there was no point in joining such a forum, as it would eventually be cited as the country's position at the WTO negotiations, that is, World Trade Organization negotiations. Before I conclude, I would like to say it is very essential for India to curtail global warming. Even if the problem was created by countries who began industrialization the earliest, like European countries and America. India, with 1.3 billion people, is one of the most vulnerable countries to climate impacts. Extreme weather events like heat waves, floods, and disruptions to the rainy monsoon season will have very devastating impacts on our people and economy. So, what Prime Minister said was with genuine intentions. The commitments made were with genuine intentions. Some will apprehensive about the practicality of India's ambitions. Some others may criticize that the net zero date is too far into the future to be meaningful. But one thing is certain, India has silenced critics who suggested it had no bold vision for the planet. It has set out its vision, backed it with action, requesting cooperation, but will not accept any distortion of its genuine intentions, concludes Mr. Ghosh of CEEW. Thank you very much.